Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Code with Pippa. So in today's video I'm here to talk about the problem set 1 Mario, the less comfortable version. So for this problems, let's first go to problem set 1, and in this we are going to go to Mario. So for this problem set we have to make a file mario.c in a folder Mario less, and we have to implement such a program in C that it creates this kind of pyramid, and the height of the pyramid is to be taken from the user input, and obviously the height of the pyramid should be greater than 0 and it should be an int so that the pyramid can be printed properly. So without any further ado, let's start with the program. So we are going to log into CS50.dev. We are going to go to CS50.dev and we are going to log in over there. Now once our code space has loaded in CS50.dev, the first thing we are going to do in the terminal is we will run the command update 50, and I would recommend you to do this command every time you start doing a problem set because your code space should be up to date, otherwise you can face problems later on. So make sure that every time you log into the code base, run this command of update 50 so that you don't face any problems later on. So you can see I have run this command update 50 and over here your code space is up to date. Now next we have to make a folder Mario less. So for that we are going to use the command in the terminal mkdir, which means make directory. Now this will make this folder Mario less over here that you can see. Now once we have made this folder, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to change the directory to this folder. So for that we are going to use the command cd, which is for change directory, to Mario less. Now we are in Mario less and your prompt has changed to Mario less and then a $sign. Now we are going to make our file, which is going to be code mario.c. So over here you can see you have a file mario.c made in this folder Mario less, and now we are going to start working and writing a program in this file mario.c. So let's go to the text editor now and start writing a program. So before starting any C program, we already know that the first step is that we have to include the required libraries. So first of all, let's include the CS50 library. For that we'll write this command #include CS50.h, and next we are going to include the standard io.h library. Now once we have included these two header files or these two libraries, we can now actually start with the program. So to start with the program, we already know that we write the statement int main void, which you know is going to have the main body of the program, and in these two curly brackets we are going to write the main body of the program. So first of all, the first thing we have to do is we have to take the input of height of the pyramid from the user. So to take the height, I'm going to make a variable height with int data type, so int height, and now we are going to prompt the user for the input. Now to prompt the user, we already know that there is this condition that the height should be greater than 1. So what we are going to do is we are going to prompt the user for the height inside a loop. So we are going to use a do while loop for that, so that we can use the condition that the height should be greater than 0. So for that we are going to write do, and in the curly brackets we will input the height from the user, that is height is equal to, and in this we are going to write the prompt. In this bracket we are going to write the prompt, which is basically, so let's write enter the height of the pyramid. Now once we have prompted the user for an input, for this do while loop we'll put the while condition at the end of the loop. So for while we are going to put this condition that the height should be less than 1, so that if the height is less than 1, then the loop will run again and the user will again be prompted for the height, and until the correct input is not entered in this height variable, this loop will keep on going until the height is greater than or equal to 1. So this will take the input of the user. Now for the next part of the program, we have print the pyramid. Now to print the pyramid, we know from the lecture that we are going to use for loops to print the pyramid. And if you'll see the problem set, then it is suggested that you create your own new function to print rows of the pyramid. So what we are going to do, we already know from the lecture that the columns are printed from the first loop, inside which there is another loop which is used for printing the rows of the pyramid. So for the first loop, we will put this condition that for I is equal to 0, I less than height, I plus plus. Now inside this loop, we are going to have a function for printing the rows of the pyramid. So let's say we name the function as rows, and we are going to write rows I plus 1, and that's it. Now remember that whenever we make our own function, we have to include the prototype of the function at the top so that we don't get any errors later on. So I'm just going to include the prototype at the top. I'm naming the function rows, so we will write void rows, and within brackets we are taking the input int bricks. Now once we have added the prototype at the top of the program, there won't be any errors. Now we just have to define this function rows, which is going to print the rows of the pyramid. So let's define the function rows. Make sure to write this function outside of this int main bracket because this is a different function. So now what we are going to write, we are going to write the name of the function, which is void rows int brick, and now in this we are going to write the function which will print our required rows. So now first of all, to print this pyramid, we know that we have two components, like we have some spaces in this, and then there is this hash. So in every line you can see that there are a few spaces and then there are hashes. So let's see how the pattern is. So let's take this 3 rows pyramid, and in this you can see in the last row, in row 3 there are 3 hashes and there is no space. In second row there are 2 hashes and there is 1 space, and in the first row there are 2 spaces and 1 hash. So we have to make a program like this which is going to work like this. So first of all, let's write the code for the hashes, because we know that in the first line 1 hash is being printed, second 2 hashes, third 3 hashes. So this looks kind of simple. So first of all, let's write the code to print the hashes. So for that, I'm going to start a loop. For int I is equal to 0, I less than bricks, I plus plus. Now where this bricks is coming from, now if you go into the main function, you can see over here we have defined the function as rows I plus 1. So instead of bricks, you can say that this height, whatever will be going over here, that I plus 1 will be coming over here. So I hope you're able to understand that this loop is going to be inside of this loop, and then this bricks is going to be replaced by this I plus 1. So basically over here the bricks is representing the number of row. So let's say, for example, for the first row, let me show you an example. For the first row we have 0. When the program is going to run for the first time, the value of I is going to be 0 in the main function, right? And then we are going to go inside the loop, then rows I plus 1, which will make rows 1. So over here rows function will start running and the value of bricks is going to be 1 from here, as we discussed before. So how this function will run now? It will just take I is equal to 0, I less than bricks, which is 1 for this iteration of the loop, and then it is just going to print the hash, and that's it. That is going to be the first iteration of the loop. So I hope you're able to visualize this and understand this, that for the first iteration of the loop the value of bricks will be 1, and then this loop will also run for once only and it will print 1 hash. Now for the second iteration of the main loop, the value of this will increase by 1, so it will become 1, and now rows I plus 1, which is 2. So over here the value of bricks is going to become 2 in this rows function, and now this is going to run for I is equal to 0 till I is less than 2. So now the hashes are going to be printed 2 times. So this is how this program will be running for hashes. Now you can see this program right now also. So I'm just going to compile this program. So now you can even run this program once to see that if it is running properly. So we are going to compile this program, and to do that we will use the command make Mario, and since there are no errors shown, so the program has run successfully. Now you are going to enter the height of the pyramid, which is 3, and you can see all of the hashes got printed in the same line. Now why this happened is because I didn't put a \n after the rows. So what this did is all the pyramids got printed in the same line. So to avoid this, we are going to write printf \n. So this will change the line to the next line. Now we are going to make Mario once again so that the changes are compiled, and we will again /Mario, enter the height of the pyramid 4 this time, and you can see that a pyramid is being printed of 4 rows, and properly in the first row there is 1 hash, second row 2 hashes, third row 3 hashes, fourth row 4 hashes. So the number of hashes are correct, just that the pyramid is left aligned right now. Now we have to make this pyramid right aligned. So for that we have to include the spaces, and we have to print the spaces before the hashes. So we are going to run another loop to print the spaces. So to print the spaces, I'm going to start another loop. Now before we print the spaces, let us see how many spaces are supposed to be printed. Now if you notice over here in this pyramid of, let's say, 3 height 3, you can see that in the first row there is 1 hash and 2 spaces. In the second row there is 2 hashes and 1 space. So if you notice over here, you can see that the number of spaces in a row is equal to the height of the pyramid minus the number of hashes in that row. So notice over here the height of the pyramid is 3 and the number of hashes in the first row is 1. So the number of spaces is going to be 2, which is correct. For the second row also, the number of the height of the pyramid is 3 and number of hashes is also 2. So the space is going to be 1. So we are going to write this, that the number of spaces, let's make a variable int space is equal to height minus bricks. So if you notice over here, we have defined this by bricks. Also, one more thing you have to notice, that over here we had made this int height as a part of this main function. If we are going to use this height variable in this function as well, so we will have to make this height as a global variable. What that means is that instead of writing it over here, I'm just going to copy paste this command and write it outside of this function, so that we can use this variable height in both the functions, in this function as well as this function, so that you will not face any problems later on. Now once we have defined the number of spaces, what we are going to do is we are going to start the loop for spaces. Now for the spaces, we have defined this loop as for int j is equal to 0, j less than space, the space variable we have already defined over here, and then j plus plus. And inside this loop we're just going to printf a single space. That's it. And I think our program is complete now. We are going to print spaces, we are going to print hashes, and this is going to change the line. We have also included this function rows into the main function. So this program is complete. Now we should compile this program by writing make Mario, so there are no errors because the program is compiled successfully. Now we will write /Mario, and let's enter the height of the pyramid 3. So now you can see the program has given the correct output for a height of pyramid 3. Let's run the program once again. Let's enter a pyramid of height 9, let's say, and you can see a pyramid of height 9, a right aligned pyramid, is printing properly with the proper number of spaces and everything. So that is it for this program. Now we are just going to check this program using the CS50 command on the CS50 website. So for that, I'm just going to copy paste this command from the CS50 website. Just copy the command from the website, and this is going to take a few seconds. As you can see, it is connecting, authenticating and everything. And as you can see, the results are completely correct. Like it is all green smileys, which means that we have made the program correctly. So that's it for this program. I'm just going to fix this style by copy pasting this command style50.mario. It is going to suggest a few changes, a few spaces and everything. I'll just apply these changes, and as you can see over here, it was recommended that I should add in more comments because I didn't add a single comment in this program. So yes, you should add in as many comments as possible to make this program easier to understand for you yourself and for others as well. Now I'm just going to submit this program by copy pasting this command, and I'll just write yes over here, and my file is submitted. My problem statement is submitted correctly, properly. So that was it for this video. In the next video, I will be sharing about the next problem set. So if you're also doing CS50 right now, then I would suggest you to subscribe to this channel because I am uploading the solutions of all the problem statements, and this is going to be really helpful for you all if you get stuck in any problem statements. So do consider subscribing to this channel. Till then, I'll see you again. Bye bye.